Hello, 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 and welcome to Scoutcast, brought to you by FPL Scout. No, that's not who we're brought to you by. We're brought to you by Fantasy Football Scout. Don't know who FPL Scout is. As always, you're joined by me, Andy, FPL Mode. That's what I was saying. And I'm also joined by the ever-reliable Seb. How's it going, Seb?
I'm okay, thank you, mate. I debate ever reliable, but I'll take it. How are you?
Much more reliable than me. I bet you could have get the company right.
I don't know, man. It's the first time I've been on time for this in what, 2 weeks, is it? So
That's true. That's true, actually. Yeah. No bath night. Then you've come dirty, have you?
we were. Hey, yeah. I mean, what was it I was saying just before? I've not had a bath in like 10 years, or a wash, or a shower, or
That's
anything
not true.
really.
Why are you late every week then? Terrible. And we're also joined by the ever reliable as well, Rich. We got some reliable people on tonight. How's it going?
Yeah, good. It's good to be on FPL Scout.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it. Yeah.
Oh God, I know what it was. I amalgamated both. Oh, brought to you by Scout, FPL Mode. Put them together, FPL Scout. How's it going though, Rich? All right?
Yeah.
Yeah, not too bad. It's been an interesting
you'll
week.
see why
it?
It's not great, but
No. The ranks that are on the screen, I think, were they from Saturday night? I don't think they're completely up to
I think
date
it's
yet.
before auto subs.
Is that what it is? Okay, yeah, because some of us have some jammy bench points coming out on, don't we? Which is quite nice. Right, so tonight then, we've got a busy night tonight. Obviously, the Liverpool game is on, and we are still mid-game week. There are still games going on. Massive double game week, for the likes of Brighton and Newcastle. So we're going to... Someone's just said 3 red arrows on the screen. Ouch. I don't think Seb's would be a red. I think his is supposed to be a green, but...
Mine's. I did like subs in it, but mine's green with subs. But then also we haven't had everyone play, so maybe it will be a red in the end.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a little look at our points. We are going to have a bit of a chat about Man City as well, because I think when we're all talking about what we're going to be doing next week, a lot of our moves are either locked in, or when you're doing if you're on a free hit or whatever it is, most of the team kind of picks itself. But a lot of us are thinking about Man City, and a lot of us are thinking about who on earth do we pick from Man City. So we're going to have a bit of a chat about Man City. We've got, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4 slides for City. Hello. Still not as many as, who was it? Eze and Elise, but it's not bad. Then we've got, we're going to have a little bit of a look at a free hit 37. So if you're on free hit, Rich has put together what he thinks would be a really good free hit team for that week. We're going to have a look at our teams, our best teams. We're going to have some questions from the community, and we might even have a look at the community team as well. I think Seb's happier to look at the community team now that he might be above it, I think.
Yeah, I think just about. Imagine if I say I'm not.
Yes.
I think one of you. Oh, mate, if your up-to-date rank was on screen, you'd be ahead of it.
Oh, I told you to bench a stupid out in that team, didn't I?
Yeah.
Lovely stuff. Right, so let's have a look at
What
our
about me?
points. What's that, mate? So let's have a look at our points then. So here's mine on the screen at the moment. So I'm on 48 points at the moment, but I played Kepa and I had Raya on the bench. So I've got Raya's 7 points coming into my team for me, which is quite nice. Estupinan 17, hero of the game week. Trippier with 1, Trent is playing tonight, and then Botman with 1. Those Newcastle boys. Every week we say, oh my goodness, and they've just continued to do it. Salah, who's playing tonight as well. Matoma with 3, McAllister with 3. Bruno with 6. Isak, who I brought in, and I've captained him with 10 points so far as captain. And then Haaland with 7. I kept Rashford. He was on the bench. Greenwood started and got 1 point there. And then Shaw is rooted first on my bench as well. He won't be coming in. He got 8 points. Fairly happy this week. Brought in Bruno. So I had 2 free transfers. After finding out Rashford wasn't playing, I brought in Bruno for Grealish. Grealish was benched, so that worked out not too bad. And I brought in Isak because I wanted to bring somebody in for Watkins, and Isak was the one I brought in. We didn't get a leak on Newcastle, so I wanted to go with the safety of Isak over Wilson. More seasoned pros went for Wilson, but we'll talk about that literally in a couple of minutes. In the end, actually, I wanted to bring in Bruno because I wanted him next week anyway. But if I hadn't have bought in Bruno, Shaw would have come in and I would have been better off with an extra transfer. But I wanted Bruno next week anyway, so it is what it is.
Man, you played Estupinan like You won that battle. I don't think you played it. That's a good shout.
Yeah, so I'm happy. 2 free transfers. Like I said, if Rashford would have been fit, I wouldn't have made a transfer and I would have rolled. Sorry, apart from Isak coming in. So, yeah, not too bad. 55 points, and I think I'm pretty much on a grey arrow at the moment. Once the auto subs come in, so I'm happy with that. With my players still to play, I've just got to hope Isak outscores Wilson in the last game, but we'll see how that goes. Rich, onto your points. Not so rosy.
No, I was hoping you'll move on to Seb. Seb next.
Oh, sorry.
They could finish on a high. Yeah, I've had a bit of a disaster. 35 points. I'm trying to see who's returned here actually. So still, he got a clean sheet, but I mean, after what Estupinan did, not that great. Trippier and Botman with 1. Trent and Salah are playing right now. Saka got 2. Matoma and McAllister got 3. Haaland got 7, which was a small damage to the rank for all of us. Solanke got 2, and then Isak captain with 10. My only real decision going into there was 2 decisions going into this week. Actually, there were 3. I did consider doing Saka to Bruno.
Yeah.
For a hit. I decided against doing that, and ironically, it would have paid off, as in the hit would have been free.
Yeah.
Because I may well have to do that this week, but it was Rashford caused all these problems for me.
Yeah.
Because I knew Rashford was probably going to be out, I couldn't really sell Saka because I might need to sell Rashford to get Bruno. I had Solanke as my first sub. I was quite happy with him as a first sub.
Yeah.
But obviously I didn't have like a Stupinan or anyone like that. So everyone else's first subs I feel were a lot better this week because people have bench headaches.
Yeah.
And the only real decision I had to do was who to bring in for Watkins, Isak or Wilson. I almost captained Trippier. I was very close. If we'd got a leak that both were starting, I was going to bring Wilson in.
Yeah.
However, I'd have probably captained Trippier. I had it all written out. I had my flowchart written out. Yeah. So I would have brought Wilson in because central penalties, but I didn't trust his minutes still.
Why would you have
Trippier.
gone from Isak captain to Trippier captain if both Isak and Wilson started? Because he'd be on the left, or?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I was on Trippier captain, even with Isak in my team, with a minute to go. I put on WhatsApp, and you said surely Trippier surely Isak captain.
Yeah, yeah.
There was actually Mikhail Tokvam. We always mention him a lot, don't we? He said that Isak starts. He didn't mention if Wilson starts.
Yeah.
It was all quite panicked.
It was because we thought we were going to get a leak at like 10 to 11, and it just continuously every minute passed. We didn't get anything, did we?
It was just getting closer and closer. I didn't want the website to time out.
Yeah.
I mean, we know from last week I wasn't very, very confident with either, to be honest. And I mean, neither of them would have got attacking returns if it wasn't for penalties. Yeah. I mean, a lot's been said that Wilson got 2, in his 60-odd minutes, but Isak's assist was from a penalty as well. So they weren't very impressive.
And it could have been
Wilson's second penalty. He was getting like that break in play. Was the breaking play he was going to get subbed off? Yeah. Like if that had been a throw in, a goal kick, he was off.
Yeah,
that was. I mean, I don't think there's luck in owning penalty takers, but there's a huge amount of luck in getting a second penalty when you're about to be subbed. That's crazy.
Yeah, and then Isak would have outscored Wilson, and the minutes would have won out.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because Isak would have taken the second penalty.
But in this case, I suppose Wilson won out because he's on penalties and he's playing central.
I mean, actually, yeah, you just say minutes. That's such a good example, right? Okay, we were seconds away from Wilson not taking that pen, but the whole point of Isak having the higher minutes and therefore, if you believe that to be the case, being the better pick, was because if that penalty had been 5 minutes later, Isak gets the penalty, we assume, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just like to say about your team as well, Rich, I think this is like you've gone through the ringers a bit with your team recently. Like you sold Gabriel instead of Zinchenko, and Zinchenko then gets injured for the rest of the season. Rashford, obviously, you got Saka. I was really jealous of you owning Saka for this fixture.
Just like I was when you had him.
Yeah, when it kicked off, I was like, I wish I had Saka. And I remember, because I was at the beach, and I can remember thinking, the thing I want most from this game is a Brighton mauling of Arsenal. And I was like, but that's not going to happen. And then, of course, it happened. Like, it's just, I think you've been really unlucky. I thought holding Arsenal was actually quite a nice little differential, but it's just not worked out, has it?
No, I mean, I had 3, didn't I? And like you said, I sold Gabriel. Zinchenko, well, it was reported he was out for the season. Now he might be back in training.
Oh, okay.
So, I'm not sure what's going on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, holding the Arsenal hasn't looked great. They've still got a couple of good fixtures.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're so lowly owned as well. I mean, Saka, he's about 7% EO. It's ridiculous.
Be interesting to see what they do now. Now that the title is pretty much out of their hands in terms of, like, you know, we're expecting it to go to City. What happens with them now? Whether they, you know, a handbrake's off and they kind of go for it a bit more, knowing the pressure's off. But it's not until 38 we probably want them, is it? But
I mean,
we're kind of, you know,
in 37 they do play before City, so that game against Forest is still pivotal, as in they have to win it. They have to win that game. I don't think they're going to throw it away. Obviously, Forest are pretty good at home. I mean, Forest generally been pretty good recently, but yeah, they're a tricky one. I don't desperately want to sell Saka, but there are scenarios where it's going to happen.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
I wouldn't worry about like Saka not playing or not being a good prospect based on the title, because like it's one of those post-fact narrative adjustments where, say the title's out of their hands and then they go and win 7-0 in game week 38 because the pressure's gone, they can just play good football because they're a good team. Or the other way around, right? The title goes and then they crumble because it's all over. You could see either one of those being true, but beforehand, we don't know.
Yeah, I'll tell you which one was the right one to go for after. Right, and Seb, here he is, hero of the hour. Brought in Wilson, captained him, 24 points, and he's still got another fixture. How did the rest of it go?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, though, isn't it? There's another fixture. Like, let's not celebrate yet. So it went decent. 53 with Salah and Trent playing right now. 53 overall. That'll be what, 61 when Shaw comes in for Rashford. The team is Steele, Trent, Trippier, Botman, Salah, Fernandes, Rashford obviously didn't play, McAllister and Matoma, Captain Wilson, Haaland with the 7, as you said, that actually damaged the rank bizarrely. Bench of Kepa, Shaw, Ake, and Greenwood. Very happy to play Rashford over Shaw, knowing that he probably wasn't going to play. But if he did, I think it was like he was going to start or just not be in the squad at all. So I was very happy to play Rashford, knowing there was a very good chance Shaw was coming in for him. But I thought if they both started, Rashford had the better chance. And then, brought in Wilson. I mean, you can have the long or short answer there. What do you want?
Short.
Short. Yeah, I'm in it.
Now, to be fair, I mean, again, we mentioned this quite a bit, but obviously we're in a WhatsApp together, and obviously me and Rich were just saying, without a leak, we're going for that security of Isak, and you went for it, didn't you? You were just like, look, Wilson's the one I want. We don't have a leak, just go for it and see what happens. Me personally, I'd already in my head kind of thought, even if they're both starting, I'm probably going to go Isak anyway. But I mean, you've got to be quite happy with it now, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, let's reserve. There's another match to go. Isak starts because, you know, he does have the better X-Mins. Wilson's benched. Like, yeah, he was subbed early, but he was subbed early because he's Callum Wilson, not because I think he was being rested for the next match, right? Maybe both will be true. So I'm going to hold on to the celebrations. But yeah, I was happy with the call. Lots of jam involved, especially the way the points came, right? But I figured, because we didn't have a leak, I was pretty confident in Howe's comments that Wilson, they both start and therefore Wilson will be up front. So Isak on the left is less attractive, even if he's got the highest mins. Mm-hmm. That means Wilson has penalties as well, which obviously played out nicely. And then, I think the thing that tipped it, right, is there's a couple of games to go. And while normally I'm very boring, this felt like a good opportunity to throw a little bit of spice in, especially with no leak. I thought a lot of people would go Isak, probably maybe more than would have been a reasonable representation of what we thought their points would be. So, a little extra bit of effective ownership, I suppose. But to underline that, there's a huge amount of luck in that, man. Those 2 penalties.
And I think a lot of people had him already on the EA
exactly. Of course, if you had Isak already, you're either adding Wilson or doing nothing, right? You're not going to replace him.
Yeah. Something that did almost sway me was I looked at before the game week, the minutes per XGI non-penalty, and I mean Wilson destroys him. It's like every 85 minutes he gets an XGI, or an XG was even further. It was XG every 91 minutes for Wilson, and then Isak's like 292.
Yeah.
But then I started thinking, maybe he's a better finisher, like Seb was talking about last week. And
I think we said, like, if they both play, especially because Wilson would probably be 9 in that scenario, Wilson's the better pick. We just didn't know if they both play. And Isak still probably does have the higher minutes. So we'll see. Like, I keep saying it, but like, there's another match to come. Isak plays up front. He gets a penalty. Wilson doesn't come on until the last 2 minutes, and Isak wins this week. And, this whole conversation was for nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And you were watching the game. Isak looked incredibly threatening. He looked quite central.
He terrified me.
Yeah, exactly.
Terrified me as a Leeds fan, yeah.
So actually, I think both picks were fine. It's just Wilson has the pens. And like Rich said, if he knew Wilson was starting, playing centrally and on pens, Rich would have gone that way as well. It's just interesting that obviously you had him, captained him, but didn't have a Stupinan. I went Isak, not Wilson, had a Stupinan. Like there were swings and roundabouts everywhere. None of us had both of them, and Rich didn't have either. So it's just those little swings that can just define the week, isn't it? But even then, none of us have really gained much from what we've had in terms of we haven't gone up loads in the ranks. And like I said, Rich didn't have either, and unfortunately, he's kind of dropped a bit because of it, but it's just how it goes. But the next game could be completely different, couldn't it, Rich?
What's interesting about this week, because the last few weeks my team, it's not been very, very different, but I've had about 4 or 5 players who are huge threats to me. Like I haven't had Grealish, I haven't had a Stupinan apart from on free hit. This week it was only a Stupinan, Wilson and Shaw who could really hurt my rank.
Yeah.
And obviously they're the 3 that they've all 17, 12 and 8 points, and a lot of people captain Wilson as well.
Yeah.
So I think it was just a week where there was very few players that scored, but the ones who did, they're quite highly owned anyway. So you almost had to have both to get any kind of game. And then obviously you could be like me and have neither. But I mean, Steele's been very lucky. I felt like I've dodged a lot of bullets going Steele over a Stupinan, because I mean, Steele got an assist a few weeks ago, didn't he? When he saved a penalty. So I feel like this was kind of due. That's why I'm not that annoyed about it.
I feel like a Stupinan's like the newest Luca Dean. Like he's that player that can get you 17, 18 points and could also do absolutely nothing.
I mean, he was on no points at half time because he'd been booked. There was talk of subbing him, but there was no one on the bench that can replace him.
Oh,
I mean, Saka was tearing him a new one. So, yeah.
What it is it's those, like, when we look at it, especially like when we're looking at stats and stuff, and we go, oh, he has like 0 point something per 90 minutes, and so we extrapolate that, and it's like, oh, we'll expect him to get 4.5 points every match. But obviously what actually happens is no one gets 4.5 points every match. You get 0, 0, 0, 15 or something, don't you? So this is just, if he'd got, let's say he's got 4 or 5 every week, if he just got 7 every week for the last few weeks, it'd be the same total score. It just all comes in clumps, because obviously that's how football works, and therefore that's how our point scoring works.
Also, a point I thought of just before recording was, if this was a single game week and they just come off a 5-1 loss against Everton, if it was a single game week and they were playing Arsenal away, I don't think many people would have played him. I don't think I'd have played Steele, for example.
Yeah.
A lot it's just funny how these things work out, because
anyway, didn't they?
Yeah, I get you playing for a double
Trent.
and he's a great player, but I mean that particular fixture wasn't why you played him.
Yeah, and it's been interesting, the swings with a lot of a lot of people had the choice between a Stupinan or Steele, and obviously this week it feels massive. A lot of people had the choice between Isak and Wilson, and this week it feels massive. And a lot of people had the choice between Grealish and Gundogan. And probably not, but
show me
that's
someone
obviously
who's
quite
got
massive.
Gundogan, and I will show some
Exactly.
respect.
Well, what a little segue that is, because we're going to have a little look at the City lineups, because we're looking at double game week 37 now, and like I said, a lot of people have their United they want, a lot of people have their Brighton they want, and it's City that are the big team that everybody's like, oh, everybody's got Haaland, we're not really getting any points from him. Who on earth are we going to get from defence, from midfield? Gundogan all of a sudden has got 2 braces out of nowhere. He's kind of playing second striker as well. So we thought we'd have a little look at this. Now, Seb, you've put together 3 screens here, which is showing their lineups. Is this from the last 3 games?
Yeah, so let me just get this right. We have 2 at the top, left to right, and 1 at the bottom. Apologies, obviously the ones at the left are the ones at the top, sorry, are flipped. So one has Edison at the top, one has Edison at the bottom of the screen, just obviously because home and away. So the first one there is Leeds before the Real Madrid match. The second one on the right is Everton just gone, because there's Gundogan's 2 goals. Obviously post Real Madrid. Gundogan's 2 goals. He's got 2 in each, obviously, but the second one is post Real Madrid, and then the bottom one is the first Real Madrid leg. So we have a little prediction coming in a moment as well from not one of us, from someone who knows what they're talking about. But just to have a look at how the team is lined up. Of course, there's injuries here as well. We know Kevin De Bruyne may well have been carrying an injury in this. How the team lined up before, after Real Madrid, and if there's anything we can learn from that. Ake, obviously with the injury there as well. It looks mostly like, obviously, there's a lot of consistency in there. The De Bruyne injury, the Ake injury, which has changed potentially what is, our sort of notional three at the back or right back coming into midfield into like the four at the back. We have Alvarez in there instead of De Bruyne in the second one, obviously alongside De Bruyne in the first one. And then the wide players in Foden and Mahrez are actually consistent in either of those, but that's because Grealish and Bernardo have got the Real Madrid match for that control, which I think is something we spoke about and probably what we'd expect to see again. So what we want to do here really is, rather than focusing too much on this, maybe try and extrapolate forward and think, okay, what is City going to do in the double? So I had a quick chat to Luke, who is is it just dis or
Disable?
I feel is it disable on Twitter?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, Luke, if you ever watched this, if
Scout.
I've not got that
Yeah.
right. But yeah, he's the one that does the City lineups, and he's very, very good at it. Not just for predicting a lineup, but for backing it up with like reasoning as well, right? So if it does go wrong, at least you know why he arrived at a conclusion as opposed to just posting a team. So the next one we have here, I'll just get it up for myself, is from Luke. So this is, I believe, for the first match of the double, so immediately post Real Madrid. Obviously, we haven't had Real Madrid yet as we record this. So not only could injuries change things, but, you know, obviously players' fatigue, player performances, there's a lot that could change. But as we stand right now, we have Ederson, obviously, in goal. I say obviously, probably obviously.
Sure.
Akanji, Diaz and Ake in the back 3, 4, assuming Ake is fit, of course. John Stones doing that right back centre mid role. Rodri alongside him. Gundogan and De Bruyne, again, assuming fitness. Luke did note that De Bruyne hadn't been in training photos as we stand, but that isn't conclusive, of course. And again, this is post Real Madrid. This will be the weekend, so there is more time. Mahrez and Grealish wide and Haaland up front. So arguably, that's probably the strongest league team as it stands at the moment. The idea being, I guess, get the league one or as good as one, and then potentially rotate for Brighton. Now, we don't have a prediction for Brighton because I don't know how useful it would be. You know, there's a couple of scenarios where they win the league, they don't win the league. Injuries, of course, there could be quite a few changes. But I think at the very least, we can maybe lean on this a little bit for our selections. We all have Haaland, right? So we're probably looking to, can we add to that in terms of tripling up or doubling up on City? So I think what we then just have is some stats, which are just taken from the Scouts members area. This is the defenders first. This is ordered by XGI per 90 over the course of the entire season. Lewis comes out on top there, which Rich probably received about 0.19 of that per 90 right there. Obviously, Lewis has had lower minutes, though, of course, so don't just pick the person top of this list. Ake, encouraging, right? We know he's very, very good in the air, if, of course, he's fit. Then there's Stones, who obviously has seen a lot of football this season, have been important, but maybe not the minutes you'd want, right? Pre-60 subs. Akanji in there, who's played an awful lot. Laporte, who maybe is coming back in for Ake, we'll see with the injury. Diaz, who probably is the safest route in, apart from Ederson. Yeah, we know Ederson got benched recently, but probably apart from Ederson, the safest route. Although it's maybe surprisingly low on the attacking returns, but we know it's for the defence. And I think we're probably all steering clear of Walker, right, no matter what.
Yeah.
Before we move on to midfielders and attackers, I've spoken for a moment there, so happily just throw it over to you two for the thoughts.
Yeah, so Rich, looking at, I'll bring up Luke's prediction again for the next game. I just look at this and I look at all the last 3 games. It just, and I know it always has been, but the upside's been there. It just seems like a minefield with these defenders when I don't massively see the upside either. Like, they're not keeping a lot of clean sheets. They're not keeping any, really, apart from this week, I think, when Ederson got a bonus point as well. John Stones, obviously John Stones has scored a goal recently. Ake has as well. Apart from that, like, there's not that player like Cancelo, is there? That player that is consistently going to be getting up, getting forward, and kind of getting crosses in. So, I don't know. Defense-wise, what are you thinking? Obviously,
I think this highlights. This highlights why people went for Ederson.
Yeah,
and I mean, I think this was a very bad scenario that Arsenal lost for people who've gone heavy on City assets. Because I feel pretty. I mean, I wouldn't be that worried. I'd roll them out, and you're going to definitely get a game at least. But then you've got to think about 38 as well. I mean, defender-wise, I think it's literally just looking for the minutes.
Yeah.
And that's what people were doing with Ederson. I mean, it seems like Diaz is probably the most nailed.
Yeah. But
he's also extremely expensive. But then it's the end of the season now, isn't it? So I think if I was going to go for one, he'd be the one.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're not getting them for their attacking threat. I mean, obviously Lewis was top of the table, but I think even if we get a leak, I know he's going to play the first game.
Yeah.
I probably would play him, but I mean, he's not going to play both, is he? And I mean, based on this prediction from Luke, obviously very early stage prediction, doesn't look like he's going to play. I suppose things could change though. The Champions League, so if that goes to extra time and penalties, for example, there's not huge gaps between the games, and then you combine that with if Arsenal don't win, they play a day before City play their game in the league.
Yeah.
So it could all be wrapped up there, couldn't it? So I don't feel great about the City assets this week.
No.
It's a shame, isn't it?
It really is, because I think a lot of people, they've built up their teams for this double game week, and I think a lot of people would be wanting to move to a City player just for a bit of fun, really. But trying to pick a player that you think, even just defence that we're talking about at the moment, that you think is going to play both games, it's nigh on impossible. What do you think, Seb?
It's a real gamble.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you both covered it well. I obviously own Ake, so we'll see what the fitness is like there. But even if he is fully fit, there's no guarantee he gets 2 matches. And if he gets, either Chelsea at home or Brighton away, I mean, I've got Shaw, who's got a double, Trent, who's got Villa at home, and Trippier, who's got Leicester at home. I mean, I'm playing my doubler, right? Don't get me wrong. I will play my doubler if he's fit.
Yeah.
But if he's not, I mean, there's 3 decent players with good fixtures there. So it's not a huge rush to maybe, it's not like another week where I don't have a defender to play or I need to get on a great double. I'm probably not going to chase that for -4s or anything.
Yeah,
and what's annoying with Pep as well, because he's not making many subs or sometimes no subs, you're not getting that thing you used to get where, let's say you bought someone and at least they then cameo in the second game, so you get an extra point. So it feels like a bonus point. And I know it's only 1, but I kind of like that. At least you'll get, 1 game and then an extra point, or maybe you get a bit luckier.
It's the 20 minutes of hope, mate, when Cancelo subs on in the last 20 minutes and you're like, oh, maybe.
Well, exactly. Or I'd even do a little fist bump if I had a Kanji and he came on for 1 minute at the end. If it's the magic of the double game week.
The romance of football is not dead.
At the moment.
So here's a question for both of you then. Someone like Trippier, I know you said he's got an okay fixture.
Yeah.
Not been good recently. They just haven't. In terms of points return, yes, his underlying data is still okay, but if you were to maybe want to change him to a City defender because they've got their double game week, if you could do it for free and the rest of your team was set up, Seb, I'll go to you first. Would you do it? Would you move someone like Trippier to a City defender and kind of chase that upside of he could play both games?
So just to address the first bit, I think he's been fine. Like, we've seen that story 1,000 times, right? Good underlyings, good by eye performances, but not the points. We know what happens there. But yeah, if you just offered it to me for free, right? Money and transfers don't matter. Yeah, I'd probably do Trippier to a City defender because I'd probably just go Diaz. Because I do think Diaz has a higher potential of points in this week. But I guess the scenario isn't quite that for most people, right? Trippier to DS, even though I could afford it, that eats a transfer that maybe I'm better off using elsewhere.
Yeah. I love how you're talking about transfers now, because that if you're tying with Rich by the end, you're going to beat him based on the amount of transfers you make.
That's not happening now.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah.
Of course not, mate. Yeah, of course not. Rich, would you do it for free if everything else looked okay?
I'd be very, very tempted. If I had nothing else, I probably would. But Diaz, let's say you went to Diaz. I feel like his ceiling, when you take into account the fact he might not start both games, is probably 12 points.
Yeah.
You'll be happy if he started 2 and got 2 clean sheets.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of Trippier's ceiling as well. Like clean sheet and an assist. That feels like a Trippier. So it doesn't, when you then factor in the fact that Diaz might not play 2 games, it tough, feels very borderline. It doesn't feel as exciting as it should.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's going to be scenarios you can get a Diaz goal.
And this is what I mean in terms of there isn't a Cancelo anymore, is there? There isn't that player you can go, well, he's the player that could get me an attack and return. There's just not that there anymore. I know they all can, but the chances are just so low, aren't they?
Thing with Cancelo is at least he was nailed. I know he had a really, really good season last year, but his numbers this season, I know he's gone now, but his numbers still weren't
Since
impressive.
January, it's been awful.
So in his good seasons, he would have been top of this XGI. I think he was clearing mid 0.25s per 90, which I remember talking about was surprisingly low actually for his returns. Better than Lewis. But then, I think earlier this season he had dropped right off, hasn't he? So, yeah.
Yeah, he had. Another one who punished. He got a 17-pointer, luckily, didn't he?
Luckily. Did you not own him, Rich?
Huh?
What?
Well, I just seem to miss out on these 17 pointers.
You do, mate. Moving on to
Bring
their
back
midfield. Moving on to their midfield and attack now. And we've got Haaland right at the top there for XGI per 90. Then De Bruyne, then Mahrez, then Alvarez, then Grealish, then Foden, then Gundogan, then Rodri, then Bernardo Silva. The man in the moment at the moment is Gundogan. 2 braces in a row. He's done this before, which I think is where a lot of people are thinking, oh, hang on, is this the resurgence of Gundogan again? A lot of chat about he might not sign a new contract, like is this his swan song at City kind of thing, like 3 more games and then he's gone. But it's getting harder to ignore the fact that he's kind of playing that second striker role. He's got Haaland in front of him, and De Bruyne are kind of supplying an awful lot of stuff, and he's finishing very well at the moment as well. 7.3 million. If Rashford is definitely out, a lot of people are thinking about moving to him. A lot of people are thinking about moving to Gundogan anyway. Do you see this, Seb? And I'll go to you first. 2 braces in a row. Obviously, we're not expecting braces until the end of the season now. But is he an okay shout, or would you go elsewhere?
I mean, he's obviously low down this table, but then this is most of a season not playing as advanced as he is at the moment, right? This is more of that role we saw. Was it 2 years ago when he was performing very, very well?
Yeah.
Jeez. And the underlying numbers weren't terrible. He was overperforming, but all good players do. Like his underlying numbers were decent enough as well. It was a repeatable thing. Obviously, super small sample, like you say as well. The chance of him potentially not playing both of those matches, and also 38, right? You're going to have this player for 38, so you maybe want to consider that too. For me personally, I'm probably looking at. I think Liverpool just scored. I think it was. Oh, they've gone away. Don't know.
Curtis Jones.
Was it Curtis Jones?
Oh,
I'm currently just seeing the crowd and Leicester players, which is super helpful.
That helps.
Fair. So yeah, I'm looking at is there a Salah to De Bruyne move on for me myself? If Rashford was out there, that's an interesting scenario because I guess Gundogan is very much then in that wheelhouse in terms of value and the sort of like for like replacement in terms of FPL options, points potential and prices. But yeah, there's also just a world where you don't go for it. Obviously, we've all got the person at the top, Haaland. Mahrez, Grealish, probably wouldn't go for Foden. Alvarez, probably not, especially since he's a striker spot. So I don't know. I'm interested to hear what Rich thinks there. I think end of the season punts is your territory, my friend.
By the way, the chat's going wild with who they think scored. They think it's a Salah assist, but so far, someone said who scored, and I've had Jota, Diaz, and Jones all mentioned. No one knows who scored. Yeah.
Oh dear.
But Rich, you've loved in the past taking punts on City players, especially midfielders. Like you've loved players like Sterling and things like that. And I know we all got on Gundogan eventually. I think you might have even been on the pod with me on the Wolfpack pod when Diff was talking about Gundogan, and we all went what? And then he obviously went on his.
He was really bigging him up because he loves his heat maps.
Yeah, he does. And we were like, no. And then he went on. He scored like 10 goals in 6 games or something silly, wasn't it? But would you go for Gundogan? It feels like that's this typical. If you're on Twitter, everybody's going to mention him, and he's become a massive bandwagon this week. Is he the kind of bandwagon that's right to be on, or is this one that we're all going to be falling off soon?
Feels like with these, it's like the defenders. It's just getting the minutes right first.
Yeah.
I mean, because you look at all those players, look at the XGs, for example, they're all pretty similar, aren't they? They're all like 0.22 for De Bruyne, 0.29 for Mahrez, 0.2 for Grealish, 0.28 for Foden, 0.29 for Gundogan. There's nothing between them at all.
Yeah.
So it does just feel like a minutes prediction game and then hoping to get lucky.
Yeah.
And I swear City didn't used to spread the goals round as much. Like people complain they did, but when it was Sterling, Mahrez and Aguero, for example, it felt like they were easy to predict. And penalties could be a bit more open back then as well. Obviously, we've got Haaland definitely on penalties now. There was a case a couple of weeks ago, maybe it's going to be Mahrez, but then you saw Pep shouting at Haaland, like, you take the penalties, you take the penalties. So I don't see a world where someone else takes them, like Gundogan in his last game, getting given a penalty in the 90th minute. So I think it's a minutes prediction game. I have no problem with going for Gundogan. And a lot of people, it might come down to price, and they're all priced quite similar as well.
Curtis Jones has scored again, by the way.
Has he?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Curtis Jones or Gundogan.
Or Gundogan, yeah.
It's hard to pick between them, to be honest.
I mean,
oh my goodness, that left foot, right foot. Those are 2 very nice goals.
Seb, talk about Gundogan then. obviously
Sure.
Rich has already mentioned that about
Yay, hi.
minutes. Yeah. So they've already mentioned about minutes, right? So based on those things we saw before, which were the lineups, he's in every one of them. He's in Luke's predicted lineup here as well. And we're looking at the fact that if he is getting those minutes, what's stopping him being in that kind of secondary striker role for even if it's just for the double game week? If we're not worried about 38, surely if he's playing there and he's going to be getting at least a game, it's a good way to go.
Oh, that's offside. I think it was a Salah assist as well. Gundogan is, like you say, in every lineup, but I wonder if that's not enough or not indicative enough of what might happen post Real Madrid, even assuming injury freeness and everything, because we know Pep will pick for the opposition and for what he feels is working at the moment. Gundogan is working at the moment, and so maybe that does swing it back in his favour. I think the competition for that spot is probably Bernardo Silva, or a slight shift in shape is probably what's going to knock him out of that team. Bernardo Silva very likely to play the Real Madrid match, I would imagine, with Grealish on the left, which probably means Bernardo benched post with Mahrez right, as we've got here with Luke. So I think your minutes are decent for the first match, but then the second match is the tough one. And that's then when you're going, well, look, if Rashford is confirmed out, fine. You're trading no fixtures for one fixture. You can't get to De Bruyne there or someone you might think is more profitable. So yeah, fine, that makes sense. If Rashford is in and you've got Salah to De Bruyne available to you, I probably prefer De Bruyne. And I don't know if I've been looking to find another way to get Gundogan when I could potentially be trading a single for a single, for example, if I'm trying to do it elsewhere in my squad.
Yeah. And Rich, Seb's just mentioned it there, Salah to De Bruyne. Would you be tempted if you had nothing else to do in your team? Salah to De Bruyne, would that tempt you with the double game week?
No, definitely not. I think before the Arsenal result yesterday, I'd have still been quite hesitant. But with this, with the Champions League, then the games being quite close together, no, I don't think it's worth the risk. But as you know, I love Salah, so I've owned him most game weeks this season.
Yeah,
and he's just been robbed of assist.
Oh no!
I really wouldn't do it. I mean, I know we're not talking about Man United, but Bruno Fernandes, I'd much rather have him than De Bruyne, for example.
His stats, mate. Honestly, Bruno's stats at the moment.
You got the minutes and you got the penalties.
Yeah, but he's not getting the points, boys. Come on, you can't be having the stats and not be getting the points. We play FPL.
It's not as fun. Whoa. It's not as fun.
Neither's Trippier, but no, Seb wouldn't make that move. Come on.
No, I mean, I'm not doing Fernandes to De Bruyne. I think it would be I guess we'll talk about it in a bit, right? But I think it would be Salah to De Bruyne, and then probably reverse it within 1 week. But I have 2 free transfers as well, which maybe helps with something like that because you still have one in case an injury changes your plans.
Yeah. Talking about Man City players and who we would own, Rich said, no, I would not go for De Bruyne. Rich, I've just brought your free hit team up on the screen. You've got De Bruyne. Talk us through it, mate.
Yes. So I wouldn't sell Salah for...
No,
so I wanted to do a team with all doublers.
Yeah.
With all doublers. And the big reason I wouldn't sell Salah is because 38, they got Southampton away. He's possibly a captain option. So yeah, just to dig myself out of that hole. Also, I'm not free hitting, so I don't have to have any repercussions for this.
So talk us through the positions then, mate. Who we got in it?
Yeah. So and also you said at the start of this that this was what I thought was the best free hit team. I'm just saying I don't think it's the best free hit team. But I was tinkering around when I was on the train. So what I've gone for Mendy and Kepa in goal. So obviously it's got a bit murky with the goalkeeper situation.
Yeah.
The reason I've done that is because I want 3 Man. Andy's just looking at the chat now, waiting.
I am.
Yeah. I wanted to have obviously 3 Man United, 3 Brighton, and 3 City.
Yeah.
So to get the Chelsea in, I mean, I wouldn't be buying a Chelsea one, but for this, I've gone for Mendy and Kepa. We've gone for Ruben Dias in defence, Estupinan and Shaw. Interested in that conversation we just had because I think Trent or Trippier, it's very hard to leave them out. They've got incredible fixtures, but I would go for the doublers because it's a double game week. McAllister and Matoma, still my favourite 2 midfielders. We've had March eliminated, so that's not exactly that bold.
Yeah.
And then I'd have Bruno Fernandes and De Bruyne, and I'd have Sterling. Just because to use that money to get a Chelsea spot in, I know that Chelsea have been awful. I know the fixtures are awful. City away, Man United away. And I know he's just scored a brace, so it looks a bit knee-jerky.
Yeah.
But I was also looking at players like Anthony, for example, and I
Yeah,
thought I'd much rather have Sterling.
Yeah.
Well, not much rather. It's probably very close. Than Haaland captain and Martial.
Hmm.
So what do you guys think?
I don't actually hate the Martial pick. I think obviously if Rashford's fit,
This is
you'd
all
have
yes. This
Rashford,
is
yeah.
all if Rashford's out. If Rashford's not out, then I get rid of Martial and I get rid of Sterling.
Yeah. If Rashford was out, I think I prefer going for Anthony over Martial. I think Anthony would get the minutes, and I think he'd be there over Martial. Martial's just he's a poppadom legs, isn't he? Like God knows whether he can make 60 minutes half the time. So, but we really do play well when Martial's there. He's just looking a little less clinical than he normally does. But so I think I'd probably prefer Anthony. By the way, as well, I was going to apologise to a lot of people I said about Dalot being quite nailed. I did not expect Varane to come back as quickly as he did. And Shaw played left back, which I wasn't expecting either. So, apologies for that if you did.
Yeah, and that's why I've had to shoehorn. The first draft I did of this, I didn't have Shaw.
Yeah.
That was another reason I didn't go for Anthony.
Oh, I
here.
have a question.
I feel like Shaw, because he's played left back.
Yeah.
I think I'd have. I mean, most people have got him anyway. To be honest, it's just people like me that don't.
Yeah.
Would you? You've got Mendy and Kepa, which I think when I first saw this, I was like, that's very sensible. Is there a world where one plays one plays the other, and you end up with a single game week goalkeeper? Should you potentially get like De Gea or something just for a bit of safety and go elsewhere with a Chelsea spot or away from Chelsea?
Yeah, the only way I'd do that is I'd go De Gea and then you'd lose Martial. But normally I'd have Edison in this, but there's a bit of a chance he only plays one. Possibly. I mean, it's probably a slim chance, and I'm overthinking it.
Oh yeah,
Scott
true.
Carson will come in, won't he?
Yeah, because I've gone Diaz. Oh, Scott Carson.
Yeah, I wonder if actually Edison, no Diaz. Yeah, but then I guess you have to go for a less nailed defender, or you're taking.
Yeah, and there is a chance that Edison. I mean, there's a lot of risk with all the goalkeepers. You know, people have been worrying us about Steele for weeks, and he keeps playing.
I think so. Alvarez doesn't play Real Madrid, right? So you reckon he gets at least one of the same double, maybe both? Maybe an Alvarez over Solanke? Actually, that probably doesn't work funds-wise, does it? So it'll probably have to be over Martial.
Yeah, I mean it's tricky, and I don't think many people are on free hit, but this is how I'd do it. I mean, I guess the question is really like Sterling. Would you? I mean, a question for both of you would be: would you rather have Trent or Trippier over someone like Sterling?
Yeah.
Or even over De Bruyne? No, probably not over De Bruyne, but over Sterling.
If I'm on free hit, I'm with you. Like I'm building a team of doublers, or if for some reason I can't, I'm going like I guess they are elite singlers, but you know what I mean. Like I'd probably punt on Sterling, maybe not Sterling, but someone like that over a singler. Of course, like you said, most of us, or almost all of us, aren't free hitting. So I think this is really useful to see like who we should be targeting if we could go for anyone, and if there are any random differentials in there. I guess Sterling is available for someone if they really fancy it, but potentially that eats up 2 transfers as you have to reverse it again.
I mean, I wouldn't do it if I wasn't on free hit. That's just a free hit move. And I mean, I don't really like subscribe to form, but I think obviously Frank's going to be so desperate. He's not going to now drop Sterling. That was my thought process that, gives it a good chance of playing twice.
Yeah. And to be honest, like you're playing on a free hit, you got all the doublers, Sterling and Martial. If either of them get a brace, like the instant folklore in your own kind of FPL history, aren't they? Like, and I think both players are more than capable of doing that. I think Sterling's a really tough one. It's just the fixtures, isn't it? Like Man City away and Man United away, both defences are pretty good at home. It's a tough ask. Whereas Martial, Bournemouth away and Chelsea at home, you could see that, couldn't you? Like, you just need to get him the minutes, really. But that's where I quite like Anthony. I feel like Anthony would be a really good shout in terms of you're expecting, 160, 170 minutes or something like that in the double game week. I know he doesn't get any points for the amount of round the worlds he does, but he's selfish, which I really like that about him as an FPL asset. Like, he is selfish like that. So I think I'd probably be going with him over Martial, but I don't hate the Martial pick at all.
That's more as well. It reminds me a lot of when I free hit in, I can't even remember what week it was. We talked about it so much. It was really hard to find a striker that week, and I ended up having to go 4-5-1.
Yeah.
Which in the end worked out quite well. I mean, I suppose there's that option as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could even look at double City defense, but again, if you're gambling with minutes, I'll just gamble on De Bruyne.
Yeah.
And actually, missing out on Salah could backfire as well.
Yeah.
It's not easy
it's
because
never a
there's so many
surefire thing,
doubles.
is it?
These free hits are not easy to put together.
Yeah, exactly. I do like it though. Let us know in the chat what you think about the free hit. Or let us know if you're going to take a chance on Sterling. Right.
I guess the only other chip that's probably in play for some people now is triple captain
Yeah.
Haaland, right?
Oh yeah.
Any risk that he doesn't play both? Assuming fitness, obviously you'll know post
I
Real
don't
Madrid.
think so because he's going for those personal accolades, isn't he? So I'd be absolutely shocked if Pep just says I'm not going to play you. Like if he's fit, I think he plays, doesn't he? Still.
I think the only thing that would spook me on captain him or triple captain would be if they went to extra time and he plays the whole 120 minutes. Even then, I probably would still captain him, but that would spook me a little bit.
Yeah.
Because like Andy said, he's going for all those records.
Yeah, but Pep's not taking him off
suggesting he might get
120.
rest and he doesn't, does he? So
Yeah. I'll be shocked if Pep makes any subs in 120 minutes, to be honest.
Yeah.
Right. Let's have a look at our bus teams then. So this is my bus team as it stands. So I've got one free transfer. I've got Kepa in goal. Oh, might have to be making a keeper transfer
Mendy
this
on the
week.
bench.
yeah. I've got Estupinan at the back with a double. Trippier, Trent, and Shaw with a double. I've got Salah, Mitoma, Fernandes, McAllister, and Rashford. All of the midfielders apart from Salah have doubles. And then I've got Haaland up top as captain with a double. I've got Isak, Leicester at home on the bench. Botman, Leicester at home on the bench. And Greenwood on the bench as well with Raya as my other keeper. So originally, before I got Bruno, I was going to get Bruno in this week. So because Rashford was out, I brought Bruno in a week early. Turned out okay, 94th minute assist. So thankfully spared my blushes there a little bit. But I'm really struggling to get a keeper. I'm really struggling to get a keeper that I want in this double game week. Like, because Kepa might be dropped, obviously. I can't afford... I can afford Steele, but I can't get Steele because I've already got triple Brighton. I can't get another United player, so De Gea. I've only got 0.3 in the bank anyway, so I'm struggling to get a doubler, if I'm perfectly honest. I can't get to Edison without a hit. So I can't really keep Kepa or play Kepa confidently because he might either only play one or he might not play at all. So I'm kind of a bit stuck as to what to do this week. I'd love to be able to play Isak over Kepa. That'd be quite nice, but obviously I can't do that. So, Rich, just looking at this, if other people have the same, if they've got Kepa and Raya, a lot of people do. That was a very popular double up. What would you be doing, do you think?
I would predict, so it might be wrong, that Kepa either he doesn't play or he plays both. That would be my assumption. And if Raya comes in, is it the end of the world? Like, I know that Kane will probably get a penalty, but maybe he missed one. He's missed them before.
Yeah, yeah, true.
I'm joking. He's a very good penalty taker. But I wouldn't force it. I wouldn't force a doubler in if you can't do it. Just doing that free hit exercise, you could see how bad the double game week goalkeepers are.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think Edison's the standout, but you've just got that like 5% of risk, haven't you? Maybe it's higher.
Yeah.
Could you afford that? Could you afford Raya to
No.
Edison?
No.
Honestly, if I had Kepa and Raya, I really wouldn't force it. I don't think there's anything that great to do that.
2 free transfers next week would be quite nice.
Have you got 2 now or 1 now?
No, I got 1 now. But I don't see much else I do unless Rashford is out. And even then, I could just play Isak. But if Rashford is out, I could move to Gundogan. But
I feel like if Rashford's out, that helps your keeper. Because like if Rashford's out, you do Rashford to, like you say, maybe Gundogan. Yeah. And then you could do a keeper to De Gea. Which feels like a net positive move. But if Rashford is fit, then maybe you actually just go the other way and roll.
Yeah.
For every
that
reason.
De Gea move, that sounds good if Rashford's out.
Yeah. Obviously it'd be for -4, but
you have to use one here, don't you?
Why?
Have you got 2 free transfers?
No, just one.
You've got 1.
Because I brought in Bruno and Isak last week.
I mean, if Rashford's fit, you could almost roll.
Yeah, I think I could. I think it's fine. There's not a lot I could really do. It's just whether Rashford's fit, I think. And even then, like I said, I got Isak first sub. So that's quite a nice person to have first sub, isn't it, if anybody doesn't play?
Yeah.
Which I doubt it with all the doubles, but we'll see.
We have Isak against Wilson again.
Tempting to play Isak over Trippier.
No.
Leicester at home.
Actually, that is tempting. I guess let's see lineups and how we feel about that. But if like you were confident that if you knew Isak was starting 9, I'd probably do that. It's just you're not going to have that information. And that's another good. We spoke so much about Wilson's second game this week. Well, there's another one. I think I'll still have Wilson. I don't see myself transferring him out. So while it was a double game week pick, there's this week coming, right, where Wilson could be outscored by Isak as well.
Yeah, 100%. Let's have a look at your team then, Rich. Talk us through it.
Just gonna have to load it up. Okay, so my team, yeah, I kind of know my moves for the rest of the season. I'm not over the moon with it. I've only got one transfer. So my pre-planned moves, because most of my moves now are pretty much pre-planned. My idea was to do Saka to Bruno Fernandes, and then probably do a hit, either Zinchenko or Botman to Shaw.
Yeah.
So I'll basically be bringing in a player that everyone has for a hit, and Bruno Fernandes, who everyone either has or will be moving towards. But then outside of that, I think I'm pretty happy with my team. Obviously, Estepinian, I'm going to have to go another week without him. That's kind of, we picked our 3 Brighton. You know, at least I didn't have the March injury. I'm just going to sit on it. There is a scenario, obviously, if Rashford is out, I will have to do Rashford to Bruno Fernandes. To fund that, I'll have to actually downgrade Trippier to Shaw.
And I suppose we're saying Rashford out. We have no idea whether he's going to be out for both games either. That's the thing. Like, he could be out for just Bournemouth and be back for Chelsea, couldn't he?
I mean, if he's out for just Bournemouth, I'm happy to get rid, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, I don't think he's looked that great.
He hasn't
and
done
if
that
he's
in a
out
while,
for
has he?
Bournemouth, is he going to get full minutes against Chelsea?
Yeah.
I don't know. I know you've then got Fulham in 38, but I'll be more than happy to move off of him because I'll get to keep Saka. And Saka's obviously, I know we talked about him a lot already, but you know he's got Forest away, and then I know that, and then Wolves at home as well. So I'm more than happy with Saka's fixtures. We talked about, you know, Wilson's good because he's on penalties. All it takes is a couple of penalties for Saka.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I'd be disappointed because obviously I'll be losing Rashford, and I'd be more disappointed at losing Trippier because it's the only way I could actually fund it. Unless I start looking at players like Lindelof, although that seems a lot more risky than it was with Varane back.
Yeah.
So I think it would be, and I think a lot of people aren't going to be able to play Trippier this week. Then again, I thought a lot of people wouldn't be able to play Estepinian this week. Yeah, it's just how I get Bruno. Bruno's coming in.
Yeah.
Saka or Rashford are going, and then I'm going to bring in Shaw.
Yeah.
Rico Lewis, all depends on any leaks.
Yeah. Be nice to be able to play him. Play him over Botman, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to play Botman because Shaw would come in.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'd have to lose Trippier. Actually, there is a world where Botman plays, and I kind of hate that, having to play Botman instead of Trippier. But yeah, I'm not very well set up. I potentially could even look at -8s if a Man City mid becomes tempting for any reason.
Would you say this is all because of the free hit in 34? Do you think you'd be better set up? Like, you've obviously had some injuries as well, which isn't helping you at all. But do you think that's kind of something to do with it a little bit or not?
I mean, obviously partly. Quite a big thing for me was though I've ignored players like Grealish. I've done Saka to Bruno to Saka because Saka was injured, and then Bruno was injured. So actually, I've wasted a lot of transfers with Saka and Bruno, and ironically, that's the one I might be looking to do back. And yeah, I did use a transfer on Rico Lewis because I didn't have the money down the line to do this Bruno move. I still don't know if that was a good move. It obviously cost me points as well, and I would have had 2 free transfers right now. So.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it was a strategy. I think it was me, and I didn't want to commit to City players. But like, I could have committed to players like Ake. No offense, Seb, but he's injured.
Yeah.
I could have gone for Grealish, but everyone's selling him.
Yeah.
So
it's just interesting trying to dissect it a bit. That was all.
Basically, I've had Arsenal players instead of Man United players.
Yeah.
I think that's where it is. I've had Gabriel Zinchenko while other people have had Shaw.
Yeah. Arsenal seem to have really done it recently. Like, do you remember I kept hold of those Arsenal players, Saka and Zinchenko, and they didn't do anything. And I thought, brilliant, this is where I'm going to... Yeah, and they did nothing.
Apart from when they kept a clean sheet against Arsenal. Against Newcastle.
Yeah.
Last week.
Yeah, but there you go. Right, and then moving on to the sub 15k manager of the stream. How's it going, Seb? Let's have a look.
I'm not sub 15k.
Oh, okay.
You will be when Salah's done.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Boom. So how's your team
He's
looking?
quite highly owned, to be fair, I think. So yeah, my team for next week is still with the double Trent, Shaw, Ake, obviously pending fitness. Salah, Fernandes, Rashford, pending fitness too. McAllister vice captain, Matoma, Wilson up front with Haaland captain next to him, which means I am benching Trippier according to that. So I guess when I talked about Trippier resacking your team, I forgot I'd done this. So I suppose I support your decision, Andy. Do it.
Lovely.
Obviously there's some changes to be made though. I have 2 free transfers and 2 million in the bank. I may well use one of those on Salah to De Bruyne. Although, if you'd asked me, in fact, you probably did like 3 weeks ago or something, I was pretty set on planning that move. As time's gone on, as the injury obviously has occurred for De Bruyne, the minutes look a little bit more limited. I'm less happy in that. If De Bruyne only got Chelsea at home versus Aston Villa at home, I'd rather have Salah. If he even got, a bit of both. So maybe I end up shooting myself in the foot there. Maybe I'm not hoping for injuries, of course, but if we know Ake's out, if we know Rashford is out, or at least out of one of the matches, maybe those are my 2 transfers made for me, right? Ake to Diaz, Rashford either benched for Trippier or across to a City midfielder, something like that. So I think for me, it just depends what happens midweek with the Champions League, and then what happens with team news ahead of the weekend for what I do with the transfers.
The only thing, because I personally don't like that move at all, the Salah to KDB. I think you're completely right. If it turns out to be a single game week for De Bruyne, it's Salah I'd rather have. The only caveat is Andy Martin has saved his triple captainship for game week 37 and he's putting it on De Bruyne. Make of that what you will. All right, that's all I'm going to say.
That's the most.
He's going to ruin. He's going to ruin the legacy.
He is. I hope
Instead
so,
of his triple captain on De Bruyne averaging 96, it will average
45.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, no, 50.
Yeah, let him have 50. But, it's got to be out there. I don't think we've got a table to talk about his triple captaincies, but it's got to be out there. Right, very, very quick look at the community team. Oh, dear, that first sub, Seb.
I know. And, it was the last decision we made as well. I think... I won't mention who it was, but someone did actually comment as well on the original post. Something, I can't remember who it was. It was something like, "Oh, surely you play like Trent or something over a Stupnan or whatever it was." And yeah, we got to that in the voting, but it was one of those like, oh, just that last decision that cost it.
At least the bench order was in the right order. That's any consolation.
Yeah, true. Yeah, Shaw as well.
Yeah,
I think Shaw was probably away from the team for. I don't think he was ever getting in. Obviously, Raya to come in for Kepa as well, which will boost this up to closer to 50 points. It's on about 41 now, I think, with Salah's points. Captain Isak, which is absolutely fine, of course. Haaland up front, 2, Mitoma, McAllister, Salah, Fernandes, and Ødegaard, which was the other transfer. But that was made to facilitate the first transfer, which was March to McAllister. So the Ødegaard who replaced... I do not remember. Replaced Grealish, who had previously replaced Rashford. That was because we needed funds to do McAllister. So there was a quick poll to see how we could get those funds. Shaw, Trippier and Trent make up the back line with Kepa in goal. That will become Raya. And yet, unfortunately, there is no way that those bench points come into this team, which is really tough, to be honest, because it's a really good squad. It's made some lovely decisions. Yeah. And that's a pretty brutal swing.
Unlucky community team.
Oh goodness, yeah, of course, it's literally the decision that's flipped you. Oh,
unlucky.
Mate.
I feel left out. Seeing Greenwood as well, I just remembered there's a small. It wasn't even a problem, but I remember being annoyed that I paid all that money for Solanke and Greenwood had started.
Yeah.
Yeah, and little did I know there'd be way bigger problems like Wilson scoring a brace and Estepinian hauling. But at the time, I remember being annoyed that Greenwood started.
I was so excited. It's the most excited I've been about a lineup for ages. Saw Greenwood started. He didn't even make 60, did he?
No, I did a knee slide when he got subbed.
Yeah, that's...
Was it a half-time sub? It might have been.
God, I don't know. Right, let's finish off our stream tonight with some questions. So people in the chat, I think it's half time. We've kind of got about an extra 100 people who've joined us. I think we peaked at about 250, but let us know any questions. It is currently 2-0 to Liverpool. Curtis Jones brace and Mo Salah brace of assists as well.
Nearly a third as well. I forget who it was. It might have been Gakpo, I think, in front of goal, who, it probably comes out as a 0.3 XG, but it's one of those where you think you want to slot that away.
Yeah. So chuck us in your questions. We'll answer as many as we can in about, 10 minutes. So Omar says, I've got one free transfer. I have Dalot, Lindelof and Rashford. Is Dalot to Shaw a must-have or do I roll? Seb?
I mean, obviously, I guess that depends on the rest of the team, but get Shaw, and Lindelof played, didn't he? So yeah, I guess Dallo to Shaw makes sense.
Yeah, Rich.
I mean, yeah, I'd much rather have Shaw.
Yeah.
But I think that seems like a no-brainer. I mean, I know a lot of people have been talking up Game Week 38, and I do think Game Week 38 is fun. But I think this is the game week to attack. Like 38, I think it's remembered as being amazing, but it's not. It's not always. It's not always as good as we remember.
No, it's not. It's not like Boxing Day. So yeah, I think I do Dallo to Shaw personally. Shaw is so ridiculously nailed in that back four, and Varane, even if he's not going to play every game now, which he probably won't. Shaw will play there, and yeah, that's it then.
You heard it here first. Andy says that Shaw will be benched.
Yeah, there you go. Rui Vicente says, "Oh no, get Jota in to finish the job." I'm assuming he's talking about the Liverpool game.
I've seen people with Jota starting and Estepinian first sub.
Oh,
I won't name them. It's only one person I've seen with it.
I won't name them.
He would. Jota's definitely going to come on, you'd think, as well. It'll be like 20 minutes at the end.
Yeah.
I'm gonna double check. I think it was Andy Mack. I could be.
Oh, that's so tough.
Nihal says,
Yeah, it was.
do I do Trippier to Diaz and Grealish to Gundogan for 2 free transfers? Rich.
Trippier to Diaz and
Grealish to Gundogan.
No. I don't get the selling Grealish thing. I mean, I know I've not talked him up that highly in recent weeks, but I think Grealish and Gundogan feels like the same thing to me.
Seb?
Yeah, I'm with Rich. I guess there's a marginal gain there, but even though it's with free transfers, surely you can gain more elsewhere in your squad. That can't be your highest value transfer, I wouldn't think.
Shanoisy says, is it worth swapping Alvarez for a Brighton forward for a -4, or do I just play him? Seb?
I'd be tempted to just play Alvarez because the Brighton forwards are Ferguson, Welbeck, and Cisco, and
she had
I'm not sure.
And Cisso's injured.
Say again, sorry.
And Cisso's injured, even though it might not be that bad.
I just love the fact you always call him Cisco.
I tried to change it then. Did I not do it well?
No, not you. It's Seb that time.
Oh,
my mistake. Apologies. But yeah, I think there's every chance you get reduced minutes out of them anyway. You could call it correctly, of course, but I think there's a decent chance Alvarez gets 120, 130 in this double.
Yeah, I keep him, I think, as well. Rich?
I'd keep Alvarez as well. I think I just don't feel that confident about the minutes of these City players to be like, yes, that's a good move. I think if you're not sure, just stick. There may be people bringing in, for the previous question, people might be looking at bringing Grealish in. Same with Alvarez.
Yeah. Generic says, what are your thoughts on double game weeks taking all planning and thought out of this game at the moment? What do you think, Rich?
Yeah, I've kind of got a bit bored of it now, not just because of what happened with Estepinian, but I was just thinking these players we picked 3 Brighton players and 2 or 3 Newcastle players weeks ago.
Yeah.
And you're kind of stuck with them.
Yeah.
You can move them in and out, but it's probably not the best use of a transfer. So, and you get these peaks and troughs. I think it all evens out in the end. Like we talked about, Steele was lucky, then Estepinian's done this, so that's kind of evened out.
Yeah. And I think, did Ben Crellin come out the other day and said next year, as long as we don't have COVID, royal death, whatever it is, it should only be 2 double game weeks again next season?
I saw him say
34 and 37 or something.
But then he gave a few scenarios when there could be other doubles as well.
So,
but yeah, it will not be
depends on cup and stuff as well, doesn't it? Really,
yeah,
I think, or at least depends on the scale of that double.
Yeah. Richard Meller says, question for Seb: do you think Rodrigo to facilitate Bruno is punt worthy?
No.
I just had to check. Yeah, he did say punt worthy.
No.
No? Ooh. Animation says, do I do Botman to Diaz or Stones?
Diaz.
Oh,
sorry.
That's all right. Seb? Rich?
Yeah, I'd go Diaz. Because, I feel like I'm partly I mean, he is the most nailed, isn't he? Also, I think surely Rico Lewis is going to play eventually. That would be giving Stones a... Well, Pep did say that Stones needed to be... I can't remember the exact quote, but it suggested that Stones would be treated, with kid gloves, as it were.
Yeah, he's been.
I could see him getting benched once.
He's
Is that the phrase?
What?
I was trying to use a phrase that Pep might use.
like bubble wrap kind of thing.
It's kid gloves like when you look after young goats.
What?
We've gone off on a real tangent here.
Kid? Right, anyway.
Yeah, because the baby goats are called kids.
Yeah, no, I know.
I mean, thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I
and
think
the
they have
things you put in your hands
special
are called
gloves.
gloves, but those are just 2 words.
Oh dear. FPL Big Head says, "What is it much easier to chase than to be chased in your mini league?" What do you think, Rich?
It's mostly the kid gloves.
Yeah,
Why is it easier to chase?
yeah, than be chased.
I don't
That's just a
think it
psychological
is.
thing, right? That's like the Premier League. It's there's that weird thing where like chasing, you've got something to run towards, haven't you? Whereas if you're, I mean, F1's probably the best example, right? They're obviously ignoring slip and all that, but they all, while pole is obviously very important, being out in front of the race is an extremely different thing to sort of chasing the leader, right? You've got something to chase down, you've got something to aim for.
Yeah.
It's psychological, probably similar to FPL. Although I'd rather, you'd rather be top of your mini league with 2 weeks to go than second, right?
Plus, you could just not look at the league, and then you won't know if you're chasing or being chased.
I guess you get to make more differential picks in theory too, because you feel like you've got to make something happen.
And it's more of a win-win situation. Like, if you're already behind and you don't beat him, well, you're never going to beat him anyway.
It's
Whereas
true.
If
true.
If you do manage to, then it's like, yeah, I'm the man.
But like if I catch you two, I've got nothing to lose.
Oh,
so I'm going to do a hit for sure. You both don't.
And you did.
Gameweek 38, you're 120k, and you're like, there was the thing to lose.
Yeah. Yeah, when Mark Southerns goes flying past you, you know it all went wrong. Right. Got 2 more questions, I reckon. Chat Sport says, do we think Mahrez starts both games, Seb?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I defer to Luke. In the prediction, Luke kindly gave Mahrez starts the first. The second seems anybody's luck. If he starts the first, I guess there's a good chance he's going to start both, more than, say, Bernardo Silva. But I don't know, my friend. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Rich?
I wouldn't confidently say that any player is going to start both.
Yeah.
Which I know that's the boring answer, but I think it's the true answer. I mean, I'm sure though, if you gamble on someone, someone's going to be right.
Yeah.
Just couldn't tell you who that is, and a lot depends on the Champions League.
Yeah, big time. I mean, Haaland and Edison, and even Edison, like you said, well, there's no guarantee.
Even Haaland, you could create a narrative.
Yeah. And last question is from Dean Ashton, legend. Says, what are your thoughts on leaks, Rich? Not the vegetable.
I mean, that's one for Corf.
Yeah,
no, I wish they'd moved the deadline to the first kickoff to even the playing field more. I guess the problem is then you'll get leaks for the 3 p.m. games, I imagine.
Yeah.
I kind of hate them, but you need them.
The things with leaks, it doesn't, yes, it benefits us a bit, but it's kind of bad for both lots. So if you're engaged, you're constantly looking for leaks, you're saving it till late, and then the server might crash anyway. If you're a casual and you don't look for leaks and you're not that bothered, it hurts you because you're against the pack kind of thing. I just wish they would do it so it didn't matter. I know they took it back in half an hour, didn't they?
And it worked for a while, but something's changed, and it almost feels like 2 seasons ago, whenever it was.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. Kickoff, please. Lots of other games do that. The technology is clearly there if it wants to be used. Please do kick off. Yeah, then we're close to the 3 p.m.s, but we're much further away from the 3 p.m.s than we are at the moment, I think. Yeah, because it'd be like a whatever. Yes, probably. But I guess one of the arguments against it, of course, is this isn't just a UK centric game. There are lots of time zones around the world. Entirely appreciate that. Now, of course, at the moment, an hour and a half before kickoff, that's still the middle of night for someone. The time zone, it'd just be a different person who has to get up stupidly early to someone else, say, an hour and a half later. But I guess the difference there is that, the leaks at the moment are not necessarily guaranteed, although they do seem to be getting more guaranteed. If it was moved to the first kickoff, those are actually the lineups we'll get that we know the news. So it's more, incentive is probably the wrong word. There's more like FOMO for someone playing on the other side of the world that has to either stay up late or get out of bed early or what have you to make sure they have their team on point. That really sucks, and I have sympathy. There isn't, unfortunately, an answer to that. There isn't a time that won't get someone out of bed.
There is an answer.
So go on.
It's very complicated. I couldn't do it myself, but you could make the website so that you set a set of parameters. So if Mahrez is benched, this
Oh,
transfer
so yeah,
happens
you
and
just do
captain
if
this
you just
player.
do if then. Yeah. So just if then gates.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So just do that, because I mean I've stayed up for NFL
I was just about to
before. I
say
could
that.
start to 1
I
or
do
2 in
that.
the morning. But
Yeah.
even if you're in the UK, you might be
Yeah.
working during a
Yeah.
deadline. So yeah, if you could
Yeah.
set
I mean,
up
so
something
like,
like that, that would
there's
be
always people who are busy, but I mean, yeah, you could do that. Although does that then pull away from obviously the simplicity of the game? And
Yeah.
because we had, was it Ultimate FPL years and years ago where
Yeah.
you paid a little bit, which maybe one of the reasons it didn't work, but that was more like the Sky game where there was points for
and
more
it was
things,
UK
and I think you
only.
could have like a big squad. Yeah, and that obviously wasn't a financial success for them, or at least viable in terms of putting the Premier League out there. So I don't know if more complication into what I think a game that is very successful because it is simple, I think.
But the only
However, yeah,
people
you're
that
not
would
wrong.
need to use that, either you're there for the deadline or you've got this alternative way of doing it.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah,
not an
I
advantage if you
can't. I
set
mean,
that up.
if you can make it work, yeah, I agree with you. I just wonder if it doesn't work as well for the game. But yeah, no, fair.
Yeah.
I know the other option people mentioned as well, like making the deadline like the midnight before or something like that. I guess you could, but there's no guarantee we wouldn't still get some sort of, I know who got on the bus last night or what have you.
Yeah, you'll get
And I'm
someone
not really
leaking
sure
a video
about
at 10 to midnight, won't you? With
Yeah.
dodgy noises over the top of them. And
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Right. On that note, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us tonight. Like I said, I think we peaked at about 250, which, to be fair, Game Week 37 we talk about in the middle of a game week, and there's a game on as well. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We do appreciate each and every one of you. We've only got one of these left. Only got one of these left. Next week
Should
is
we
our
do
last
two?
one.
Should we do like a post-season?
We
where it all
can.
went
I'm on holiday directly after we finish, so I'm actually I fly out on the Saturday, and the last game week's on the Sunday.
Where
No
are you
wonder you got
going?
good arrow, mate. You're already on the beach.
Yeah, exactly.
Where are you flying to?
Ibiza.
Oh.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, when you? I mean, organising this live on stream. When are you going?
So I go on the Saturday. The game week 38's on the Sunday, and I'm away for a week.
Oh, so we could do one like Monday or nah.
Next Monday.
You're away the Saturday before the game.
Let's sort this out another time. Let's
Take
sort
this
this
offline.
out.
If someone could just get me a calendar, I'm really struggling with this whole 7-day week thing we do. What?
Thank you so much, Rich, for joining us tonight. I hope you enjoyed yourself, bud.
Yeah, I enjoyed myself, and I hope when you're in Ibiza, you don't get punished by the time difference and miss the deadline.
I know, mate. If they don't have Wi-Fi, I don't know what I'm going to do. Seb, I hope you enjoyed yourself, bud.
What day is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really did. Thank you very much.
Good man. And for everybody else out there as well, thanks very much for watching. Thank you for listening, if you're listening after as well. And may your arrows be green for the rest of the game week and going into game week 37.
No chance.
And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.